Episode 5, That Darn Marigold. After 3 days of seeing the teenage girl sit alone at an outside lunch table, Luni could take no more. Crossing the entire outdoor space, she walked over and sat beside her. She dropped her book bag and found her lunch, half squished by her psychology textbook. A green apple and peanut butter sandwiches. The girl glared at her as Luni bit into the tart fruit. "What are you doing?" Taylor asked with a frown. Luni tried to smile. "Hi, you won the, lottery of friendship." Taylor narrowed her eyes towards the girl. "I didn't sign up for anything." "I know a scam when I smell one. I almost signed up for a future treats job once." Luni shook her head, not understanding what she was saying. "Shh, let me adopt you." "That is a freaking weird thing to say to someone." Taylor, for a moment, shifted away from her but hesitated. "Are you trying to be my friend or steal my kidney?" "Why can't it be both?" Luni said. "It's good to keep spares." "Well, you can't have my kidney," Taylor said. "They are among my favorite body parts." "We can haggle," Luni said. "Why don't you have food?" "I can do a kidney for a peanut butter sandwich. A raisin bread spread over both pieces of bread and marshmallow topping." Taylor closed her eyes. "I'm not hungry." Not believing her, Luni slid half of her sandwich towards her. The girl looked at it, then rolled her eyes. She picked it up and took a bite, eating half the slice in one gulp. She chewed with a smile on her face. "Okay," Taylor said. "I won't eat you then. But don't ever let me win in dodgeball, ever again." Luni had a thought but decided not to voice it. Instead, she reached into her bag towards the bottom. "I also have some candy corn. Do you want it?" "By the order at the skirt moot, tell me where our shining is," Viviana shouted across the tea shop. 5 years later, Luni's mouth dropped as her mind realized that all those strange words everyone on the coast kept saying aloud meant something somehow. She looked at Taylor, who shook her head and waved her hands. Luni, not understanding her gestures anyways, asked, "Shergoot Moat? Kima, I instruct you to keep the Whitlock silent unless she is going to answer my question. Where is Barry?" "Why are you calling her Kima?" Luni said. "Her name is Taylor." Taylor held her face in her hands. "That's my Whitlock name," she said. "My real name is Kimama. It means butterfly. Taylor is my Shigonian name. We don't know where Barry is." Luni's eyes widened. "No, you're lying. You hid your name from me the whole time. What else are you hiding?" Taylor rolled her eyes. "Not now. Barry left after we got back, defeating the Grobobolo Popkus. We don't know where he went, Liviana." At hearing this, Liviana circled the two women, inspecting them with her rain cloud color eyes. She adjusted her purple flower, stuck between her ears. Barry Diecknine would not leave. Her purple corset seemed to glow. Biting her lip, she reached out her hand. "Give me any gars you were carrying," she instructed them. Luni tilted her head, staring at Liviana. Taylor took the carrot from her hands and turned it over to Liviana. The realization struck. Taylor had Barry's radish wand. "Why does the non-Golorian have a gar, but you do not, Kima?" she asked. "You said yourself, my family are half Whitlocks, and we should not partake of the Skirtmoodian traditions." Luni's eyes shot the Taylor. "Are you a half-wit?" The two women groaned. Liviana bared her white teeth. "How is the champion of Whispers Bay so ignorant?" and a full whitlock. I, the acting signing, sentence you both to Gladorian School. You will be held there until you pass, or until Barry is found, and his side of the story is told. Liviana stopped and winced at Luni's raised hand. Yes. Or are you going to ask what a Gladorian School is? Luni nodded nervously. And if I find out that you were lying to me and something has happened, I will make sure your last memory of life is unpleasant. From her pants pocket, Liviana pulled out a long okra and whispered, Kiwi kakapu. In a flash, Luni and Taylor were teleported out of the room. The two women found themselves in an old classroom, surrounded by other adults, standing around chattering, wearing 18th century colonial clothing. 3 women wore pastel garments and 2 men wore large blue and red tweed coats. Old yellow posters littered the walls with things like, "We are chosen," and "Work hard, suppress your feelings, don't question anything," written on them. Several old small desks sat nearby with numbered packages on them. Purple-tinted windows let in a dull light that made the seeing in the room difficult. A wrinkly-faced lady sat at a large oak desk in the middle of the room, with an old dusty chalkboard behind her. She was seated so she could glance 360 degrees around the room to view her students at all times. She tapped on her watch and looked at the door as if she were expecting someone to walk through it. Taylor reached down to pat her pocket and whispered to Luni, "If anyone finds out we have Barry's radish wand, we are effed in the A." Luni blinked in confusion. Where are we? The old woman rapped her knuckles on the desk to get everyone's attention. Magic Adult Education School, Taylor said. It sucks. There is no escape. The only way out is by passing the stupid standardized test. The town makes a lot of money off of funding and grants, so they are super annoying about it. The test is multiple choice and meant to confuse you, so pick either B or C or whichever sounds better. Luni crossed her arms. I hate you so much, she said, meaning every word. I gave you everything, and you couldn't even tell me your real name. When you were a walk in the park on a sunny day, Taylor scoffed. So glad you know everything about my every thought without having to check with me first. I really saved you time a bit. Oh yeah, I've learned to shorten it into Taylor speak, Luni said, which is, you suck and you never cared about me at all. You'd rather stay here and play magic with these West Coast weirdos. Everyone, the woman said in a raspy, high-pitched voice that sounded like nails on a chalkboard, get a number from the sorting boot and sit down. Open your package, but do not share what's inside with anyone. A loud cry, followed by a whimper, rang out. A black leather boot on the desk seemed to be distressed. On the outsole of the boot, separated from the welt on the top of the shoe, it quivered. Please, let me die, the boot said. The old woman screamed, do your job, and you better have removed that one package from the one former student, the one of whose name we no longer speak. Luni and Taylor did as the woman asked, and were assigned the numbers 5 and 7. They were seated on the opposite side of the room. Unwrapping the thin paper package, Luni found a handwritten note, along with broccoli and a heart-shaped toothy leaf with a mild hint of mint scent to it. The note read, if you are kind to them, they will forever be your friends, even if they don't act like it. The old lady wrote her name across the chalkboard, forcing everyone to cover their ears to dampen the horrible scratching sound. I am your instructor, Miss Darphinius. I have been teaching the Gladorian School Education / Re-Education class for over 30 years. You are here because you lack the basic abilities to live. The only true way is to follow the Scamordian rules. The old woman felt the need to write everything she was saying as she was saying it on the chalkboard. Luni's hand rose to Taylor's horror to stop the noise. "What's a skirky moot?" Luni asked. Miss Darfinius slammed her fist into the desk. "Do not speak unless you are instructed to. Skirky moot is the Old English term that means Shire Assembly. This is the name of our assembly of Glodorians. I am going to assume from the Whitlock and the half-wit in the room that you don't know what that means either. Glodorian is our term for magic users." "That's really dumb," Luni said. Speaking when not spoken to. "This is lame. Did you workshop these names with anyone at all? Why do you refer to yourself with something so hard to say? Couldn't you call yourself something else, like wizards and witches, or couldn't you be wizards of the coast?" A large puff of smoke burst out of nowhere in the back of the room. Gold flakes flew everywhere. A man with salt and pepper gray hair stormed Luni, shaking his fist. "Cease and desist," he shouted with his face flushed. Luni looked at Taylor, who shrugged, not knowing what the man was talking about. The man, pointing a finger in Luni's face, said, "The name is a trademark of my clients, the true Wizards of the Coast, and is not to be used without written permission." Miss Darfinius approached the mad lawyer and put her hands on her hips. "Devin, I've talked to you about this many times not to show up in my class unannounced. The Whitlock doesn't know anything." "That doesn't matter," he yelled to her. "The skirt moots have agreed to this and ratified arbitration. You are the gathering of Glodorians, not to be confused with the gathering of magic." "I'll take care of it," Mr. Phineas shouted, motioning the lawyer out of the room. "You, Whitlock, approach the whiteboard. Start writing 'will not use registered trademarks without permission until your arms fall off.'" Reluctantly, Luni did as she was asked. Devin watched her for a few moments before nodding and exiting the room again in a burst of smoke. "Coastal Glordians are picky and territorial," Mr. Phineas said, returning to the other side of the chalkboard from Luni. "This comes from a very grave misunderstanding that took place in 1692 in the Massachusetts area. To settle that mistake, we, being the descendants of the original Scamordians, identify as Glodorians. We are the chosen people, ones who have been gifted with the power of Glodor, or magic for you, Whitlock." She gave a cold, hard look to Luni. "There will be a written test with all I have told you in it, as soon as the messenger owl shows up. Until then, using the notes materials passed down with former students, you are to bless a Gwar with the unique power." "How do you do that?" Luni asked. Taylor winced again as Mr. Phineas slammed her fist down in the desk. "Doesn't that hurt?" "Stop speaking! Return to your seat and do as I told." "But how? I don't know how to use magic, or Glar power?" Luni asked again. Miss Darfinius pointed to where she had been sitting before. "No, I'm not a Glodorian. I don't know how to." "If you have been sent here, then you have some abilities, Champion of Whispers Bay. Do as I say, or I'll transfer your soul into a boot as well." The sorting boot let out a loud sob before whispering out, "Why won't anyone help me?" Luni saw Taylor's expression on her face from across the room. She tried to look around to see what other students were doing. They were so fast in whatever they were saying or doing that she had no idea what was going on. "How am I supposed to do this without powers?" she thought. Am I supposed to feel something in my veins? Or do I silence my mind until I'm numb and don't feel anything, like normal? Do I get down with this sickness? I'm being punished for not doing something I don't know how to do. Feels like high school all over again. For several minutes, Luni stared at the note, leaves and broccoli, hoping something inside her would awaken and make the objects do something. They did not. She watched as a man beside her used a tomato to change the top of his desk into a wet rice field. Next to him, a woman tapped an asparagus and her dress changed into a silly chicken costume, full with a wooden beak and mask. Miss Dorfinius walked around the room, pushing up her glasses. Yes, yes, she said. Very nice, Artinius. Is that a lamproot? Very lovely. Luni's heart sank as Miss Dorfinius approached her desk. She searched around the room, then at the objects on her desk in desperation. And the Whitlock, show the class what you have blessed. Stand up, she said. Luni did as she was asked. The broccoli in her hand, she raised it towards the ceiling and said, Plabergiliosis? Everyone gasped. Then the room fell silent. Taylor placed a hand over her mouth and turned red. Luni searched the faces of the students and instructor who were acting as if she had said a curse word or fired off a gun. What did I say? Luni asked. The forbidden corridor, someone shouted. Get in front of the class now, Miss Dorfinius said. I don't understand. Everyone in the arena was saying it, Luni said. Miss Dorfinius removed something from under the desk and held it up for everyone to see. The stool of repentance, she said. Stand on it. No, that's messed up. She doesn't know any better, Taylor shouted, standing to her feet. Luni shrugged, not understanding why standing on a stool would be so bad. Reading her face and knowing that she did not understand how in trouble they were, Taylor went on. When you stand on it, it forces you to admit every wrongdoing, every one. Luni's mouth dropped. Barry's wand was still in Taylor's pocket. If she stood on the stool, she would blurt out that they had killed Barry. I won't say it again, Luni pled. Miss Dorfinius opened a drawer and removed a green ear of corn. She pointed at Luni. I am not going to tell you again. It's messed up you treat people this way, Luni shouted at her. Without moving her lips, Miss Dorfinius caused her guar to send out a shock from the end of the corncob, hitting Luni's hand. It burned throughout her body. Luni gritted her teeth, trying to fight the pain. I can make it so you wish for death. Stand on the chair. Luni stood. No. Miss Dorfinius cast the corridor again. Luni doubled over in pain. Taylor ran to the front of the room, only to be met by Miss Dorfinius's burning shockwave. She fell at its touch. Taylor tried to stand to her feet, but she couldn't. The pain was so great that she could not even move her fingers. It burned within every part of her body. The other students looked on in horror as the instructor picked Luni up and stood her on the stool. Luni spoke, confessing the worst thing that she had ever done. I don't even like Kevin, Luni said, with no control over her words. I searched so hard for my place in life that I was willing to settle for anything. The one person that I love, the one I always love, I can't have. I tried to destroy every trace of us from existence in every way possible. But like Marigolds, it somehow keeps coming back year after year. I thought I had salted the earth, but the Marigolds, they're back, covering up everything I tried to touch. It's grown so big, I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't know if I want to get rid of it. I don't know how. I don't want to. I keep looking for them in every relationship, knowing it's a poor substitute. Or that, she cursed Marigold. My feelings are not her responsibility. I want to stop being angry, but I can't. I want to keep you, but I know I can't. Taylor's hands did not leave her mouth as she listened. Luni thought she saw tears in her eyes. The darkest of wrongdoings of Lu's life had been told in front of everyone. When she had finished, Taylor blew out her cheeks and let out a long, deep sigh. At least their secret was safe. What was that gibberish about? Taylor said, pulling her off the stool back onto the classroom floor. You were supposed to tell your deepest, darkest thing you've ever done. Luni blushed and hung her head. I did. Enough, Miss Darvinius said, walking back to her desk. From another drawer, she took out a piece of lettuce and a radish. Everyone who has blessed a wand, take your lunch and come with me. I am not waiting for that owl with the standardized test any longer. We are going for the backup plan for passing this course. We are traveling to the abandoned Snufferclyde Tower. Once we are there, I will tell you what the assignment is. Whitlock, stay here until you bless a gloire. Only then will the door unlock and you will be transported to where we are. Why is your hand up again? Luni swallowed, ready to be shocked again for speaking. If you can teleport anything anywhere, why do you have a messenger owl? We take care of our own. That's all that matters, Mr. Phineas grumbled. Everyone, get a move on, and keep your lunch light. Luni watched everyone leave the room. She thought about how horrible these people were. Yes, magic seemed to be wonderful, but with that so many things in life, she realized that something ugly covered something so beautiful. As much as she wanted to belong to something, why would anyone want to belong to a group so mean? It feels like dating Kevin, she thought, while hiding her face in her hands. Who were you talking about? On the stool. Luni looked up to see Taylor standing in front of her. How could she not have known? Was she playing dumb? She must have been. You know which candy corn hater I was talking about, she said. Taylor shook her head. You can't be honest about anything, can you? Luni said. I'll be okay. Go with the others. I'll find a way out of here. Taylor placed a hand on her shoulders and felt Luni shiver. She had always been sensitive to her touch, but something about this made Taylor bite her lip. Releasing her hand, she went on. You know that we can't. Taylor stopped. Luni hung her head. The feeling stirred in the pit of her stomach. She hated feeling this way. You heard what I said. Did you not? Luni said. Go before that lady freaks out again. Taylor nodded. Promise me that when you get to the tower, you will not go off on an adventure or anything. Find a way to get to me, and I'll help you pass. There's things you don't know about me that might change what you think of me. Luni turned away and said in almost a whisper, There is nothing that could do that. Luni felt Taylor's hand on hers. They looked into each other's eyes. I only wanted to be in the play so you'd be there to help me learn my lines. I don't even like acting, Taylor said, finally looking away. She hung her head and left the room. I am such an idiot, Luni said. The boot snickered in a sob. Its color seemed drained, which seemed weird for a piece of footwear and not a person. Luni approached it. I thought giving you that package would work. It didn't. I'm never getting out of here, it said. She shrugged her shoulders and bent down to face the boot at an eye level. You know, the boot said, the package was created by Rovana, the High Wizard of Snufferclyde. Something tapped at the window. Luni turned to see a cat sitting on the other side of the glass. It pawed, then walked in circles along the outside edge of the brick. Luni turned back to the boot. Why does Ravana get to be called a wizard? Again, the cat pawed at the window and let out a cry. He is an oathbreaker, the boot said. He is pure evil. I handed out every package, hoping someone was going to get a guard that could turn a boot back into a human. But your package did nothing. And now, neither of us are leaving. I don't want to be here. It once again broke down into tears. Luni stood up and approached the window. The cat was black and slim with the bell around its neck. Something shiny sat next to it. Why would a creature want inside so bad? She looked around to see if there was a bag of cat food or something on the inside, but did not see any reason for it to be so desperate. Its black vertical slit eyes seemed to swirl as it stared at her. Please don't let the cat in, the boot said. If there are 3 of us trapped in here for eternity, it will start getting crowded. I want to keep my seniority. Luni shook her head and unlatched the window. As soon as she lifted it, the creature took hold of the shiny object in its mouth and leapt into the room. Its fur was soaking wet. It walked with long strides to where Luni had been sitting to the number 5 package. It jumped onto the desk and dropped the object. It looked at Luni, then nodded. The creature bent down and took hold of the leaves in its mouth. It walked in steps of joy along the way and out of the room and back through the window. Luni walked to the desk and picked up the object, inspecting it. It was made of brass and curved on both sides. What is it? The boot asked. It's a fish hook, Luni said. The door glowed and spoke in a booming, deep voice. Good work. Your gar has been crafted. Please enter me to join the others. Luni could hardly believe her eyes. She took the broccoli and began towards the door. Before she could reach for the knob, she turned back to face the boot. Placing her hand on her hips, she asked, Why were you turned into a boot? I wasn't turned into a boot. I'm in a boot. Because Miss Darphinius is a narcissistic psychopath that teaches to tame her control kink, like most teachers. Again, Luni shrugged and narrowed her eyes. My soul was transferred into this boot, dooming me to assigned seats for the rest of time, until I can get out. Why didn't you consent to being a boot? Luni asked. Who would consent to that? The boot asked. Please, take me with you. Please, please, please. I don't want to look at those inspirational posters for one more minute. I'll be that thing the hero takes along with them that helps him win the day. I promise. An idea came. She picked up the boot and walked over to the stool, still out in front of the desk. The boot screamed, No, don't do that. I didn't do anything. Okay, listen, I'll tell you the truth, okay? I am a king. My soul was captured so others could steal my kingdom. Luni shook her head. First of all, I'm not kissing you. Second of all, I know I'm about wedlock and all, but I wasn't born yesterday. You had to have done something for your soul to be, what was it? Put in an object? Trapped, it pleaded. If you release me, I will grant you 3 wishes. Yeah, I don't think so, she said. She placed the boot on the stool. It confessed every sin. I walked across the street without looking. I cheated on my taxes. I never tipped my pizza driver. Please, please, please get me off this thing. I owned a health insurance company. There it is, Luni said, taking the boot off at the stool. Back on the desk you go. Enjoy assigning seats for the rest of eternity as a piece of leather. You don't understand. I was wrong to profit on people's illnesses. I was a piece of trash. Yep, and now you're a boot, and that's a vast improvement. Goodbye, Luni said. I've been in this classroom for 30 years. You and your, whatever she is, need an expert. I've heard every lecture about everything Gladorian. I'm your knowledge boot. You gonna charge me a copay? Premium? Luni asked, walking faster towards the door. I know how to get to the top of the castle. If you could reach to the highest room, you can pass the class. We can help each other out. Please, take me with you. I beg of you. Luni stopped. She put her palm to her forehead and thought for a moment. There seemed to be so many magical items around. How was one supposed to know what was to do with them? She didn't like making these kind of decisions, especially not ones involving an ex-health insurance company owner. But the Boot had a point. If it knew the insides of the tower, she and Taylor would escape the horrible magic class. She could get back the waking Braylon and Kelly up out of those ruined bases and finally be out of Whisper's Bay for good. But could the Boot be trusted? She decided to risk it. She sighed and picked the Boot up. The cat jumped back through the window and approached her, tugging at her shoe. What, are you coming too? Luni asked. The cat licked itself. Okay, fine, everyone is going. The door opened, glowing bright with the light from the other side. Luni, carrying the Boot and being followed by the cat, walked in. The bell around the cat's neck rang out as it walked in that ominous tone.